Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 53 based on novel. So let's start. The evil-looking young man looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, "Divine retribution. I can't believe that a waste of a planet like this could have such a magical treasure." Wang Lin stared at the person. Only after that person looked at the divine retribution and revealed a look of fear did he relax a bit. If the youth was indifferent toward the divine retribution, then the only thing he could do hide was inside the heaven-defying bead space, and that was not a good idea. The evil-looking young man was also feeling very frustrated. He never thought that he would meet the power of divine retribution here. If he was at full power, it would not a big deal. He would be confident that he could destroy this sliver of divine retribution. But right now he had only recovered 30% of his strength. He was merely an early-stage soul transformation level cultivator. As a result, although he could defend against the divine retribution, he would certainly be injured. If his cultivation falls below soul transformation, he won't be able to leave and will have to find another place to heal up again. All of this worrying was because the minimum cultivation level required to use the star disc was soul transformation. However, these are not the main reasons. The main reason was that inside the transfer array, he felt a power that made his skin crawl. This was a power he was very familiar with. The evil-looking young man let out a snort. He no longer looked at the divine retribution and looked toward Wang Lin. "Junior, hand over the bag of holding and I'll let this matter go," he said. "Is this what Senior wants?" Wang Lin's gaze was serious as he stared at the person and took out a bag of holding. The evil-looking young man's gaze quickly shifted to the bag and he said, "That is correct. Toss it over here." Wang Lin hesitated a bit. The youth was simply too fast. Even if he were to ask him to go far away or to wait until he himself was far away, it would all be pointless. If this person really wanted to kill him, it would be very easy. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin decisively threw out the bag of holding. The evil-looking young man caught the bag of holding. After scanning it with his divine sense, his expression softened. He looked at Wang Lin. His face showed no expression, neither anger nor happiness. Wang Lin stared at the young man. He placed the divine retribution lightning before him and said, "Senior, Junior has already returned the bag of holding, so I'll take my leave." With that, he carefully backed up. The evil-looking young man looked at Wang Lin. His eyes suddenly started glowing. Two beams of colorful light suddenly shot out from his eyes toward Wang Lin at an unimaginable speed. Wang Lin had remained cautious this whole time, so when he saw that the youth acted, his G-realm shot out without any hesitation and collided with the colorful light. Shortly after, Wang Lin coughed out a mouthful of blood as the red lightning formed by the G-realm collapsed under the colorful light. While Wang Lin retreated, he took out the restriction flag. The last restriction appeared in his hand and was about to land on the restriction flag. The evil-looking young man's expression changed greatly and he shouted, "Stop, little friend, don't be rash." With that, he backed up and stared at the restriction flag with fear. He bitterly smiled. A sliver of divine retribution would only lower his cultivation level, not kill him. At most, it would force him to go into closed-door cultivation for a few thousand years. But after he saw the restriction flag, he understood why this junior would have a sliver of divine retribution. Although he didn't know what the restriction flag was, he could immediately tell that it was a magic treasure that could bring out divine retribution. He had a few of those weapons himself, so he knew of its power. If he let his kid continue, then he would not come out of it with something as simple as needing to take more time to recover. He might forever lose the chance to recover his cultivation. Wang Lin still had some blood at the corner of his mouth as he looked at the evil-looking young man. Right now, with just one thought, the last restriction would land on the restriction flag. If he gave up the flag and then used the sliver of divine retribution as a guide, he was confident that he could direct part of the divine retribution's power onto the evil-looking young man. Wang Lin stared at the young man and said, "I have already returned the bag of holding and didn't touch it at all. Why did Senior go back on his word?" The evil-looking young man pondered for a while then asked, "Was the red lightning you just used the G-realm?" His tone was uncertain. Wang Lin's expression remained normal, but his heart was in turmoil as he silently stared at the young man. The evil-looking youth stared at Wang Lin and said, "I should be correct. What you used just now was the G-realm." Right now, the youth's feelings were very complicated. Wang Lin had brought him one surprise after another. At this almost waste of a planet, not only did this kid have a sliver of divine retribution and a magic treasure to call the divine retribution, but he also had the G-realm. It was this G realm that caused his killing intent to completely disappear. The evil-looking young man took a deep breath and revealed a strange expression. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. After a moment of silence, he said, "If Senior doesn't have anything else, then Junior will take his leave." With that, he carefully backed up. If the youth were to move at all, he would activate the divine retribution without any hesitation. The evil-looking young man hesitated for a while and asked, "Do you not want your G realm to break through the bottleneck?" Wang Lin's body stopped moving and he stared at the youth. The evil-looking young man hesitated once more. He sighed and said, "Forget it. Kid, you better listen. The G realm is a very extreme power. Breaking through the bottleneck is very difficult, but it's not impossible." Wang Lin's expression remained unimpressed as he silently looked at the person. The evil-looking young man revealed a look of appreciation and his eyes suddenly lit up as colorful light slowly appeared. The light turned into a ball of light and floated in his hand. Wang Lin's caution reached its extreme as he stared at the colorful light. The evil-looking young man looked at the colorful light with a complex expression. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Check the light with your divine sense." Wang Lin pondered for a little before scanning the light with his divine sense. His expression immediately became strange. He paused then asked, "This is," inside the colorful light, he detected a sliver of G-Ream. This discovery shook his heart. The evil-looking young man took a deep breath and slowly said, "You found it? This colorful light on my home planet is called the five-colored G-Realm. This was originally not mine. It was gifted to me by a friend as he was dying." Wang Lin took a deep breath. His eyes trembled as he looked at the colorful light. The evil-looking young man waved his hand and the colorful light disappeared. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "The G-Realm is divided into many different kinds. As for how many there are, no one really knows. Cultivators with G-Realm are rare in the Cultivation Union, so I am unable to see what property your G-Realm contains. But I know that no matter what type of G-Realm it is, they all have a bottleneck, and those bottlenecks are extremely difficult to break through. I know of a method that allows the G-Realm to break through the bottleneck, the Cultivation Planet Crystal. This crystal is given to every rank 6 cultivation country when it gets approved by the Cultivation Union. The old monsters of the Cultivation Union use their heaven-defying powers to form the crystal. It is a rank 6 cultivation country's national treasure. If a G-Realm cultivator obtains it and refines it, there is a chance of breaking through that G-Realm bottleneck. Wang Lin's expression was kind of ugly. A rank 6 cultivation country's national treasure was not something he could obtain. The evil-looking young man looked at Wang Lin. He then slapped his bag of holding and took out a black disc. He casually hit the disc with his right hand and the disc suddenly grew larger while releasing a gentle light. "If you manage to obtain the Cultivation Planet Crystal and obtain the qualification to leave this waste of a planet, you can come and find me at the 5 Elements planet. My name is Na Duo." With that, he rose up in the air and disappeared into the flying disc. Shortly after, the disc began to spin rapidly, causing a hole to appear in the sky. Through the hole, Wang Lin could see the endless void filled with bright stars. The disc moved and entered the hole. The hole rapidly shrunk and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin considered himself very lucky that this person didn't pursue the matter about the bag of holding. Whether it was the restriction flag or the sliver of divine retribution, both were his ultimate weapons, especially the sliver of divine retribution. These were things that he didn't want to use if he didn't have to. He looked at where the hole disappeared and a powerful urge appeared in his heart. When he was young, he dreamed of flying in the sky, but now he wished to fly among the stars. He took a deep breath and turned around to leave. The cultivation country crystal of a rank 6 cultivation country was not something he could obtain at the moment. Whether what the evil-looking young man said was true or not, it was still a clue. If he ever reaches a cultivation level high enough to obtain it, then he wouldn't mind trying it out. The only thing he needed to worry about now was how to reach the spirit severing stage. Producing a spirit severing cultivator is the requirement for a rank 3 cultivation country to reach rank 4. It is very difficult. It has to be said that on the entire planet, there are countless rank 3 cultivation countries, but less than 20 rank 4 cultivation countries. This data clearly displays the difficulty of reaching the spirit severing stage. If he wants to reach the spirit severing stage, the spiritual energy and environment of a rank 3 cultivation country isn't enough. Wang Lin's goal is to find a rank 4 cultivation country and reach the spirit severing stage there. He took out the map. After looking at it for a while, he set his sights on the 5 sects union. This rank 4 cultivation country was the closest one to his current location. Half a month later, The border of the five-sect union appeared before Wang Lin. At the border, there was a light screen blocking the path. This was the difference between a rank 3 and rank 4 cultivation country. This light blocked outsiders from entering. Wang Lin arrived before the light screen. After looking at it for a bit, he sent out a restriction. The restriction landed on the light screen and an opening appeared. Without a word, Wang Lin went inside. After Wang Lin entered the rank 4 country, he no longer flew, but walked like a mortal. He looked around at this foreign place and signed. No cultivation method can help one break through from the nascent soul stage to the spirit severing stage. Even pills are useless unless one can find rank 6 or higher pills. In order to reach the spirit severing stage, one must study the heavens and gain their own Tao. That is the only way. Wang Lin didn't join any sect once he entered the rank 4 country because he knew about this. After all, joining a sect won't help him much with reaching the spirit severing stage anyway. If he wanted to join a sect and become its core member, it would take too much time. Time he didn't want to waste. From his 400 years of experience in cultivating and his experience with other spirit-severing cultivators, he understood that an understanding of the heavens was very important for reaching the spirit-severing stage. Wang Lin had walked the path of blood for a long time, and all that killing had nothing to do with understanding the heavens. He had a feeling that if he were to continue down this path, he would never be able to reach the spirit-severing stage. In reality, Wang Lin's real cultivation level wasn't nascent soul. His main body's G realm prevented his main body from reaching the nascent soul stage, so it was only his avatar that reached the nascent soul stage. Walking on the road, Wang Lin's body gradually changed as his main body went inside and fell into a deep sleep while his avatar came out. Wang Lin had come to an understanding about his G realm, so he won't insist on trying to break through the bottleneck of his G realm. He will also no longer rely on the G realm so much. From now on, it will just be another magic treasure to him. His current magic treasures were too weak to damage spirit-severing cultivators. In order for this magic treasure to rise up in strength, he will need some very rare heavenly treasures, like a rank 6 cultivation country's cultivation planet crystal. After giving up on the G realm, Wang Lin decided to use his avatar to walk the path of a cultivator. If one day his avatar reaches the soul transformation stage, he might have a chance of obtaining the crystal. Then, once he refines it, he might have a chance to break through with his G realm. Wang Lin took a deep breath and took the G realm out of his consciousness. He understood that the most important thing for him to do was to gain an understanding of the heavens, but he had spent most of his life on the path of killing, and this path was incomplete. If he wanted to understand the heavens, then he must start from the beginning and become immortal. If one wants to turn into an immortal, one must turn into a mortal first. Before he knew it, Wang Lin's mentality changed and he gained a hint of understanding. However, that hint went by like lightning and Wang Lin wasn't able to capture it. He pondered for a while then smiled. His cultivation disappeared like melting snow. After a while, he looked no different than a mortal. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light as he grabbed a willow leaf. He put it in his mouth to savor the green taste as he walked along the road. This rank 4 cultivation country was very large, several times larger than Zhao. There were a lot of cultivators and the amount of mortals had also reached an incredible number. While Wang Lin was walking, he saw people passing by. All of them were carrying some sort of baggage, unlike him, so he attracted a lot of attention. Wang Lin pondered for a little. He went to the side of the road and gathered some thin twigs and made a basket for himself. He then gathered various leaves and herbs to fill the basket. Wang Lin had only walked on the road for a few hours and had already seen many martial artists from the mortal world pass by on horses. None of them paid any mind to Wang Lin. Every time horses passed by, they would kick up a cloud of dust. However, Wang Lin didn't mind. He dusted the dirt off his clothes and continued walking. But this time, he only walked a bit before a voice behind him shouted, "Make way." At the same time, a powerful wind came from behind him. Wang Lin quickly dodged to the side and saw a black horse almost touching his body as it passed by. Shortly after, several more horses passed by. One of them was about to bump into Wang Lin when the rider suddenly pulled hard on the reins. The horse let out a loud noise. Its front legs rose up and it moved to the side. Only after taking a few more steps forward did the horse stop. The man riding the horse stared at Wang Lin. He picked up his whip and swung it toward Wang Lin's head while shouting, "Where did this blind person come from? Do you not have eyes?" Wang Lin frowned. However, just as the whip was coming, a middle-aged man came from the side, grabbed the whip, and shouted, "Zhong-san, what are you doing?" The man snorted. He put away the whip, shot Wang Lin a vicious stare, and left. The middle-aged man didn't look the man as he turned toward Wang Lin and said, "Sorry, little brother, for scaring you. I still have an important matter to attend to, so please forgive me." Wang Lin shook his head and said, "No problem." With that, he dusted the dirt off his clothes. The middle-aged man revealed a surprised expression. From his point of view, Wang Lin was only a normal person with no signs of being a martial artist, but Wang Lin's courage was far above an ordinary person's. The middle-aged man carefully looked at Wang Lin. He smiled and said, "I'm Lu Xing. This road only heads toward the capital. I wonder what little brother is heading toward the capital for." With that, he saw the basket on Wang Lin's back and asked with a strange expression, "Is little brother a traveling doctor?" Wang Lin didn't make any excuse and nodded. The middle-aged man smiled. He clasped his hands and jumped on his horse. Suddenly, the horse let out a cry, but instead of going forward, he went back. Wang Lin turned around and saw that 100 meters behind him, a carriage slowly moved forward. Half an hour later, the carriage slowly appeared behind Wang Lin. There were more than 100 people on horses guarding the carriage. All of their eyes were shining, their heads straight. It was clear that they were all expert martial artists. Lu Xing was on the side of the carriage. He was close to the carriage, talking to someone inside. This road was not wide, so after seeing the carriage, Wang Lin stood on the side of the road. As the carriage passed by him, 4 people on horses appeared in front of him to block him from the carriage. Lu Xing turned to look at Wang Lin and his eyes lit up. He moved his horse next to Wang Lin, then clasped his hands and said, "Little brother, do you have any medication for the evil wind condition?" Wang Lin knew that the other mistook him for a doctor. With his temper, he normally wouldn't bother with this, but he suddenly had some insight. In order to reach the spirit severing stage, he must be able to understand the heavens. Maybe this was a chance to enter the mortal world. Thinking about it, Wang Lin asked, "Is there someone sick?" The middle-aged man hesitated for a bit and said, "A servant girl is sick and we are still far from the city. The doctors around here tried giving her some medication, but none of them worked." Wang Lin glanced at the carriage and said, "Let me see the patient." Lu Xing wryly smiled and said, "Little brother, do you have medication that can help? If you don't have any, then there is no need to see the patient." Just at that moment, an old voice came from the carriage. It said, "Lu Xing, this person has traveled a lot, so he might have a cure." Lu Xing quickly replied. He jumped down from the horse and said, "I'm going to have to trouble you, little brother." Wang Lin followed Lu Xing to the carriage and was about to go up when the old man inside coughed. Lu Xing quickly stopped Wang Lin and said, "Little brother, just look from here. There is no need to go inside." Wang Lin frowned. Thanks to his divine sense, he already knew that there were 3 people inside the carriage. Aside from the old man, there were 2 beautiful ladies. It was very clear that they were a master and her servant. The person who was sick was not the servant, but the master. With his divine sense, Wang Lin could clearly see that the lady wasn't sick due to evil wind entering her body, but from some green gas inside her body. She had clearly been poisoned. Wang Lin said, "Stick our hand out." The lady inside the carriage hesitated for a bit before extending her hand. Wang Lin held her hand for a bit before letting go and reaching into his basket. He took out a leaf and ran his spiritual energy through it once. He handed the leaf to Lu Xing and said, "Have her eat it raw and she will be cured by tomorrow." Lu Xing looked at the leaf in his hand with a strange expression. No matter how he looked at it, it was only the leaf of a willow tree. Lu Xing bitterly smiled as he thought that he was wrong about this young man. Clearly, this young man was not a doctor, but a madman. Otherwise, who would use willow leaves as medication? If this leaf really was medication, then anyone can grab a bunch from the side of the road. He was about to throw away the leaf when the curtain on the carriage suddenly lifted. An old man filled with wrinkles came out and grabbed the leaf. After looking at it for a long time, his expression changed as he said, "A 100-year-old willow leaf." He took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Wang Lin and respectfully asked, "Is there any trick to using this leaf?" Wang Lin faintly smiled and said, "Eating it raw is fine." The old man quickly nodded. He made an expression toward Lu Xing and returned to the carriage. Lu Xing looked at Wang Lin with a strange expression. He couldn't help but wryly smile and said, "Little brother, since you're going to the capital too, how about you travel with us?" Wang Lin smiled and said, "I need a horse." After Lu Xing heard this, he immediately said, "Son Laroa, hand over your horse." A 20-or-so-year-old youth bitterly smiled. He got off the horse and brought it over. After muttering a few words, he turned around and left. Wang Lin examined the horse. It looked very heroic and its eyes were filled with intelligence. When Wang Lin rubbed the horse, its eyes narrowed as it let out a very comfortable expression. This startled Lu Xing. This was the first time he had seen a horse show an expression like this. Wang Lin's left hand pressed against the horse and he easily jumped onto its back. Lu Xing quickly followed behind as he chatted with Wang Lin and kept looking back at the carriage. Wang Lin looked around at all of the mortals surrounding him as he rode. A feeling he hadn't felt in a long time appeared in his heart. At that moment, the spiritual energy in his body started to move on its own, and all of the surrounding spiritual energy seemed to be attracted to him. If there were any powerful cultivators around, they would be shocked because there was a thick layer of red mist aura surrounding Wang Lin. This aura was very powerful, however, it was not leaking outward, but condensed around Wang Lin. Not to mention mortals, even most cultivators wouldn't be able to see this red mist aura. This was the murderous aura that Wang Lin had gained from his 400 years of killing. After being part of him for such a long time, it gradually changed into a hostility aura. Eventually, as he killed even more and underwent a change, it became an evil aura that would cause any cultivator's skin to crawl. When this evil aura can be used freely, it can be used like a powerful technique. Also, if a bit of it is used when refining a magic treasure, it would make the treasure much more powerful. The spring wind blew past Wang Lin and he unconsciously took a deep breath. His eyes radiated an unnoticeable light. He could clearly feel that his spiritual energy was undergoing a change. Although this change was very small, it contained a very mysterious power. The evil aura around Wang Lin loosened a bit. A sliver of it entered his body and fused with his spiritual energy. Gradually, as the carriage slowly moved forward, more and more spiritual energy gathered around Wang Lin. Under the dense spiritual energy, all of the horses suddenly became very lively. Even those mortal martial artists' eyes lit up. They didn't know why, but there was something that was causing their bodies to feel warm and comfortable. After a long time, the spiritual energy in Wang Lin's body settled down and the spiritual energy around the area dissipated. The martial artists' heads suddenly became clear as they talked among themselves about what they had just experienced. As the group kept moving forward, night eventually fell. A circle of carriages was formed on the side of the road. Some of the servant girls came down from the carriages and started to prepare dinner. Some of them threw a few looks at Wang Lin and talked among themselves. It was not hard to understand why all of the female servants were looking at Wang Lin. Right now, he had an unspeakable charm. Although his looks were normal, he had a very special aura about him. Wang Lin sat leaning against a big tree as he looked at the slowly darkening sky. He was experiencing a kind of peace of mind that he had never experienced in the past 400 years. This was from the ancient gods' inheritance of memory. Back when Tu Sai wasn't able to travel among the stars, he often looked at the sky like this. This peace of mind caused the spiritual energy in Wang Lin's body to resurface again, but the current Wang Lin didn't pay attention to the spiritual energy and, for the first time, he noticed the red mist aura around him. The red substance slowly dissipated with his mind at peace. He knew that if he kept this up then the red substance will disappear after several years. Wang Lin had noticed this red substance before, but this was the first time he'd seen it. He knew this was caused by his 400 years of killing. Although he knew that allowing this red substance to dissipate would help him enter the spirit severing stage, he still felt that it was a bit of a waste. Wang Lin pondered for a while. After thinking about it, he started to make the red substance around him boil and slowly condense. However, after shrinking it to 1/10 of its original size, Wang Lin could no longer condense it any farther, no matter how hard they tried. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Just as he was about to try again, he raised his head and looked toward the female servants. He saw a servant girl wearing red walking toward him with smoked meat and wine. A wave of fragrance flowed toward Wang Lin as the girl came closer. She put down the meat and wine as she curiously looked at Wang Lin for a while and said, "Thank you." This girl was the servant girl that was sitting with the young lady in the carriage earlier. He picked up the wine, scanned it with his divine sense, then took a sip. A hot and spicy taste suddenly entered his body. In these 400 years, this was one of only a few times that Wang Lin had drank any wine. Back before he entered the path of cultivation, his father would only take out wine when his fourth uncle visited. Whenever that happened, Wang Lin would secretly drink a bit, then giggle toward his father and fourth uncle with a red face. With a hint of sadness, Wang Lin took another big gulp. The girl opened her mouth wanting to say something, but then someone called her. The girl responded. Her pretty eyes looked at Wang Lin before she turned around and left. Because Wang Lin was a cultivator, he didn't need to eat, so mortal's food held no attraction to him. That smoked meat was left where it was, but this wine reminded him of something, so he continued to drink until it was all gone. In the middle of the night, the martial artists set up fire pits. Bursts of laughter came from the men grouped around them. As Wang Lin listened to their laughter, he couldn't help but faintly smile. Some of the martial artists became very brave after drinking a bit and went to flirt with the servant girls for some private time. Seeing these mortals, Wang Lin unconsciously thought of Li Muwen. At that moment, Lu Xing arrived next to Wang Lin with 2 jugs of wine. After passing over a jug to Wang Lin, he sat down next to him and said, "Little brother, your medication was indeed effective. My lady is already better. Here, a toast to you." With that, he tilted the jug and filled his cup, but then he saw that Wang Lin didn't even use a cup and drank a large gulp directly from the jag. He let out a laugh. After drinking the wine in the cup, he copied Wang Lin and drank a large gulp from the jug. Didn't you say that it was the servant girl who was sick? How come it is the young lady now? Wang Lin faintly smiled as he looked at Lu Xing. Lu Xing's old face turned red. He felt very embarrassed as he slapped his leg and said, "Little brother, this is my fault. How about this, once we arrive at the capital city, if you have any problems, you can come to the Southern Heaven store to find me. As long as I am capable, I won't hesitate to help." Wang Lin let out a smile. He no longer talked. He only slowly savored the taste of the wine. Lu Xing looked at the empty jug on the ground, then looked at the almost empty jug in Wang Lin's hand. He smiled and said, "Little brother has very good tolerance for wine. It's lonely here. How about we go over to the fire and compete with my fellow brothers?" Wang Lin reflexively wanted to reject, but, after pondering for a bit, he nodded. Wang Lin followed Lu Xing to the fire. There were a lot of martial artists there. They were all laughing as they talked about fun events they had encountered. Lu Xing went up and kicked the person who was talking and jokingly scolded, "Wang Laowu, I have heard you talk about Qing Fen Laro's little peach many times. I guess she served you well. When we get back, I'm going to check if you're just bragging." The person named Wang moved over to make 2 spots for Lu Xing and Wang Lin as he said, "Since you take care of business so fast, I'll cover the bill. I'll still have time to go after you." The moment that was said, everyone around started laughing and Lu Xing jokingly scolded a bit before sitting down with Wang Lin. Wang Lin casually looked at the mortals around him. He was feeling a lot of regret. Although these people's lives were short and just a breath from him was enough to kill them many times over, their happiness was something he didn't have. Tonight, Wang Lin drank a lot of wine. Although he didn't talk much, the others around him got familiar with him and laughed and drank with him. Later, some brave and bold servant girls joined them as well, including the servant girl who gave him food. However, she only sat next to Wang Lin. Her gleaming gaze often landed on him, but no one knew what she was thinking. It wasn't until midnight that everyone fell asleep from being drunk and the servant girls all returned to sleep in the carriages. Aside from few that were standing guard in the distance, everyone was asleep. The camp was completely silent, aside from a few popping sounds from the fire. This sound not only didn't disturb anyone's sleep, but helped them sleep even better. Wang Lin stood up and walked to a large tree before sitting down. Sitting while leaning against a tree, he felt waves of calmness. Earlier, only for a while, he forgot that he was a cultivator and thought that he was a mortal like everyone else. He closed his eyes and checked his body. To his surprise, his cultivation level had broken through the early stage of nascent soul into the mid-stage. Although he was already at the peak of the early stage and could break through at any time, he didn't think it would be this fast. However, the red substance around his body had dissipated a little. He had a feeling that if he just lets this red substance dissipate, he will regret it in the future. His divine sense entered the red substance once more to condense it. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.